Hi there and welcome back to the channel, and today we are taking a look at fixing these Betamax cassettes. Often when I'm repairing video recorders, especially Betamax or even VHS or Video 2000, I find that some machines decide to chew up the tapes, and I tend to use tapes that really don't matter. But sometimes the tapes get so damaged that actually it's just not worth continuing on with them. So what do? You can go online and you can buy some more tapes. Some of them are actually well over 50 years old now, and the tape is starting to degrade and get mold and all sorts of stuff. Now, if there was valuable recordings on these, that's fine, but there's not. We got a bit of ET on that one. What's this one? Bewitched. I think that tape actually still works, but it's quite manky. This one, the machine actually ate. This one here, the tape has really started to stretch, and there's all sorts of issues with the tape with that one. This one I think has just been eaten alive and crinkled up around the edges as the tape's going through. So what do? Do we throw them away? Well, no, we've got perfectly good cases here. And what we do is we go put those to one side, so just put them there. What we do is we actually go out and buy some VHS tape. So rather than throwing out these Betamax cassettes, which are now near on unobtainium, and to be honest with you, VHS tapes are getting like that, I found some new old stock tapes. And what I'm going to do is take the tape out of these VHS tapes and put them into the Betamax tapes to sort of bring them back to life, and I can use them again. The tape stock in these is very, very good, and is perfectly compatible with Betamax. The only issue is that VHS uses clear leader and end sections to denote when they're at the end of the tape, and Betamax uses metallic, so we have to retain those metallic bits of tape on there, and I'll show you that later. We don't need anything. Literally, once we've used the tape, we can throw the actual case away with these. There's so much VHS stock out there, it's actually quite easy to find. This, I think, was about £20 for 10. And these are unusual because these are 200 minutes long, and that's quite unusual. But a 240 or a 180 will do quite nicely. With 240 you tend to have quite a lot of tape left over, so I tend to put the tape back together again, and I get like a 30-minute or 40-minute cassette, which is still usable, so at least I'm not throwing it out. But yeah, it's pretty easy to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to take I think we'll take this one apart because the tape has completely been snapped, and this was done by a machine I'm working on recently, and it's it's pretty far gone. Now, it is possible I've already restuffed this about 4 or 5 years ago, and I've just sort of reused the tape. So, okay, let's have a look inside. So if we get the screws out, this is really easy to do. It's easy for anybody to do this. You just need a bit of sellotape, VHS tapes, and a pair of scissors and a screwdriver. So we'll just take that out like that. Sorry about the lighting, by the way. I've got so much on my desk and on my lab over on the other side. I don't want to pull it apart, so I'm using my office desk to do this, and the lighting isn't brilliant. So there we go. So that is the tape in there. So the first step, as I said, is to take the case apart. Now, we've got all these little bits and pieces in here. Be very careful with them. Make note of where they are just in case they pop out. And you can pull the spools out quite easily, and you can put the bottom. Yeah, look, this has completely got damaged. Yeah. So you need to put this to one side along with the top half. So let's start with this one because it's actually in a tiny bit left on it. What you do is there's a little nipple It's very difficult to see, but there's a little nipple just there that's proud, and when you actually put it on there, it actually spins. So what you can do is you can, again, the edge of the table is just over here. You just put that on the table like that, and you pull the tape down over the edge of the table. Let me see whether I can show you what I mean. So you just drape the tape over the edge, and I might have to get myself out of the way here. And what you do is you pull this, and just as you can see, ooh, if we get fast enough, it will actually, come on, there we go. The weight of the tape actually pulls it off of the spool, and it will actually spool like that for quite some time. As you can see, you've got some friction, and this tape looks like it's been having problems in terms of it's getting sticky. And you can just gently, it's like a fine balance between friction and weight of the tape coming out. There we go. Yeah. It's much easier on larger tape, and in fact often what I do is I just put it a little bit closer to the table. There we go. And it will just spin until the tape comes off usually. All it is the weight of the tape. There we go. Oh, there we go. That's just the weight of the tape. So, yes, this is an original one. So we've got this metallic tape leader here, and that's what Betamax uses to detect the end of the tape. And what we're going to do is actually just cut where the tape joins the metallic tape. You do have to have a fairly sharp pair of scissors. These ones may not be. So if I just slice like that, there we go. So that's one spool. And we've got a whole load of tape here. And yeah, that's the first part. And if you smell it, it actually sometimes smells of crayons, and that's actually the tape breaking down. So yeah, let's just put that to one side. And let's get this one going. And again, it's the same thing. I tend to put my finger in it just to create some resistance so it doesn't overspin. Yeah, there we go. It takes a couple of attempts. Come on, you can do it. Yeah, this one's being awkward. Sometimes you just have to put your finger in it and just yank like that. Unspool. There we go. So it's now unspooling. Just got to wait for this to unspool. It does take a few times for you when you first do this to get that to do it, but once you get the technique, it works a treat. Well, sometimes it will hit a bit of sticky tape, and you just have to keep an eye on it. So there we go. So we then chop off the old tape from that leader, and then just remove all this to one side. Okay, so we now have one leader which is short, which is this side, the left side, my left side, and this is the right side, and this is the take-up spool, and this has a much longer leader. You do need to leave that there because when the Betamax takes its tape out, it takes it quite a long way, either that way or that way, depending on what type of Betamax transport you get. So the next step is to take open a VHS tape. So if we just put that there, we crack open a nice shiny tape. that. Ooh, that's decided it will come out. Okay, so nice fresh tape, never used, and there we are, standard VHS tape. This is just a Maxwell brand. It's just standard VHS tape. There's nothing special about it. It's 3 hours and 20 minutes long, 200 minutes. That should fill up a Betamax spool and have a tiny bit left over. The 240 minutes, then you then end up with that sort of 30 to 40 minutes left over. Something like that. 3 hour tapes don't seem to fill it. I've tried that and it will do it, and it will actually certainly replace tape, but not completely. Again, we've got some stickers here. I might cut some of this up just to fit onto the Betamax cassette. Don't really need them. So let's take this one apart. Now we do want to keep all of this because we're going to use a VHS machine to actually fast forward the tape on. So we will be putting this back together again with this spool here attached in, and then we'll spool it on from there. So let's take that out. Let's take that out. Ooh, there we go. Like that. Just push these to one side. Okay, so we now have got the VHS spool. What we want to do is just gently cut. Come on. Cut off the leader. And when you cut, you need to try and go 90 degrees to the actual tape, not at any angles. You need to try and keep it as 90 degrees as possible. So, and what we do is, I've got some sticky tape. Try and get a little bit of tape like that. And then I'm going to put the Betamax leader, making sure that it's actually the right way round, so it's not twisted. And we put that onto the sticky part of the tape, about halfway. And then we carefully butt this up against. Let me see whether I can actually get a little bit closer. So there we go. Literally, we just try and get it as close to the tape as possible, like that. Now, sometimes I just leave it like that, but other times what I do is I actually fold that over like that, and then I cut off the other sides. It's up to you. I sometimes do this. Most of the time I do it the other way, or actually I just do one layer. And then what you do is you then just cut off the excess tape. Doesn't matter if you take a tiny bit of the videotape with you, but as long as it's nice and strong, the video recorder will not record anything at this point here. It starts a little bit further up. So there we go. Cool. So we now have a VHS tape attached to a Betamax spool. So we're now going to put the tape back into the case. I tend to spool this on so that the leader is as far in as possible. Just protects the tape a little bit. So I then thread it through where the tape used to go. And then pull that through. And just push it through where the guides go. And then we've got the VHS brake mechanism here, which we just have to click. So there we go. So what we're going to do is put this back on. And then put the screws back in. I would strongly advise putting all the screws back in. Don't just do one or two. If it falls apart inside the machine, you're going to have a devil of a job picking out the mess. We now have VHS spool with Betamax take-up spool. So supply spool, take up spool. I'm now going to put this in the machine, a VHS machine, and fast forward it. You don't just simply leave it until you hear the noises. What you need to do is maybe do a minute's worth of fast forwarding and then check it. And keep on doing that. And then as you get close to the end, check it every 30 seconds. It takes a little while, but it will actually, you'll get used to actually how long it takes to do this. It's normally about 2 minutes, something like that, maybe 3 minutes. And that should start to fill up. If you go over, don't worry, that's fine, because when you take the tape out, you can take off the excess and get it down to within the Betamax brake teeth. Now, these little ridges on the edges is the brake mechanism on Betamax. It's the same as VHS. VHS has the same sort of system, as you can see here. There's ridges on there, and yeah, so you can take the tape back out, spool it back out, throw away a bit of tape if you do go over the edges. So right, let me go and sort this out now. So that was about a minute, and we've got a tiny bit more to go. So it's probably about a minute and a half. Okay, so that's pretty close on there. I had to rewind it a little bit just to get it, sort of take some of it back onto this spool. As you can see, there's a bit left over. So it's probably about 40 minutes, something like that on there. Oh yeah, we've actually gone over a little bit. That's absolutely fine. So what we can do is, if we very gently, carefully lift that out, and lift that out, we don't need the VHS shell. If I turn this over and just take some of the slack back in. It's a manual process, but I think we are. So I think that's as much tape. Yeah, we are in there. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that the tape doesn't interfere with the braking mechanism. So in fact, I might actually just do a tiny bit more, actually. So now you can cut the tape. So again, 90 degrees, like that. And I'll just show you what I mean by the brake. Let's have a look. Not sure whether you can see, but that's the brake band here. This is the little pins which actually act as the brake. The tape's got to be before those pins, so it's got to be not interfering with your brake mechanism, and that is as much tape as that spool will take now. So we now take the VHS supply spool and the take-up spool, and we put them back over with the cassette. I will join these back together again, and then we've got a small tape. Again, it can store one episode or something, but yeah. The Betamax tape, and we've just got to simply join the leader onto the tape, again with sticky tape. If the alignment's not right like that, then don't worry, because you can use your scissors just to gently trim off the edges. It's not perfect, but it will do for the end of the tape. So we now get the Betamax shell, and let's start with this end first. And we put it through the tape paths, and then pull that like that. And the Betamax brake mechanism is on the side here, not down here. And remember, this little section here we're handling won't necessarily be actually recorded on because it's too close to the actual shell. If I go like that. So we now have a freshly stuffed Betamax cassette. So if I then just put that back on, that's it. Then so that's ready to be rewound. So before we do that, I will just put this back together again, just to complete this. So here we go. Sometimes you don't, if you've got a tiny bit left over from a tape, if you use like a 180, it's a really tiny bit. It's probably economically better to use 180 tape rather than these 200s or 240, but yeah. Now VHS tape tends to actually start a little bit closer to the reel, so you try to not handle too much of the tape. Put that on the tape there, so it's stuck on both sides. And again, if you slice into the tape and it's a little bit curved, don't worry, that's absolutely fine. So there we are. That is, that VHS tape can live again. So there we have it. We've got a bit of tape left over on the VHS. We've got a full spool of fresh tape on this Betamax cassette, which I think is from like the early 80s, this one here. If you want to sort of reuse some of these labels on the bottom, by all means do. Again, sometimes what I do is I'll just show you. If I just slice that there, and yeah, just take the VHS label off on the end, so you end up with something like that. And I can then just stick it on there. Again, you can do the same with the front label, but they are different dimensions here. So, but the one at the bottom actually tends to be, like the label on the edge here, seems to be roughly the same size. So I'm just going to rewind this tape, and then I'll record something on it, and then I'll show you again the quality of it. I'll pipe something through my machine, my VHS machine, sorry, my DVD player onto this, and we'll have a look. Okay, that's enough. Let's rewind. Press play. See what we get. And there we are. Looks perfectly acceptable for Betamax. Yeah, it's absolutely fine. And again, this is just an easy way to restuff your Betamax cassettes if they're knackered or they're full of mould and you don't care about the recording. At least you can reuse the shells and actually then get a fresh tape up and running. As you can see, nice stable picture. It's very good. Yeah, not absolutely fine. So yeah, that's one easy way of doing it. It's actually really easy to do. I've done hundreds of tapes like this, and that is absolutely ready to be reused again. What I tend to do is I tend to put a little marker, use a little Sharpie or something just to mark that this one's actually been restuffed, so at least I know that actually it is redone and ready to go. But yeah, that's good for a new recording. I've now got 6 others to do, because these ones are absolutely screwed. They're really, really badly damaged. So, right, thanks for watching. If you like this type of content, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give me a thumbs down. Put your comments in. And I'll see you on the next video.